Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jodi Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome to Downsizing Roadmap podcast. We've got some science today.
I know, I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, one of my favorites because we all feel all these emotions, and the brain and the human body and all of that and how it connects is just fascinating.
Yeah, and I think sometimes if you understand why you're feeling the emotions, then you can handle it in a different way. So I think it's super cool.
Makes it easier to get through for sure. So we're going to talk today about why letting go hurts and the neuroscience behind downsizing and some of the benefits that truly help your brain at the end too once you get through it. So I'm Heather Fisher.
I'm Jodi Roscoe.
And we're excited to dive into this today. This episode, like Jodi said, gives you just permission to feel the feelings that you're going to feel. We're going to talk about a lot of different ways. It's a lot more than just what we've talked about before, decision fatigue. We'll talk about that a little bit, but there's so many layers going into the whole picture and why we can feel overwhelmed, why we can feel tired by it, so many things. Yeah,
like attachment, loss aversion, there's so many memories and emotional regulation, which I think that is a big struggle sometimes because your brain is doing all kinds of crazy things, and we'll tell you exactly why. So, okay, so number one, why downsizing feels emotional before you even start. Like your brain is wired for energy conservation and familiarity, right? So when it sees something new, it kind of is like danger, because back in the, caveman times, that was terrifying, right? Yeah. You could die if something, new snuck up on you. And so our brains are still kind of wired like that. So when you think, oh, I'm going to change my whole life, it's like, wait, hold on.
Yeah, those dangers, can in situations be major life-changing dangers, but our brain just reacts to all the many little danger signs all day long. It's why you see something that you don't want to trip over and your body has a reaction.
Or why I go when in the car, something happens in the
when
car
you're the
and passenger. Then I get in trouble.
Yes, I've been there and been in trouble for that. But those are all our brain's reactions to danger signs. And when you don't know what's coming next, that's a major red flag raiser for your body. That's just like, I can't settle on this because I like what I'm familiar with.
Yeah, it perceives it as a threat. So it perceives change as a threat. And also, it's a high cognitive things, right? So it takes energy to think about all of it. And so, and that makes you nervous and gives you anxiety and, kind of makes you scared about that. So when you have predictability and safety, then that doesn't seem as that's not very high cognitive thinking. If you're trying to figure out a problem or change something, lots of cognitive thinking, and your brain likes to rest in a place that is easy
and familiar, and
yes.
All of those stressors that you're feeling before you've even gotten started by just thinking about that overwhelm, even if it's not affecting your day yet, those are all normal. And what we talk about often in our class is that taking the fear of unknown out and starting with that dream of what the next step is a way to regulate that fear.
Right, and information helps you let go of anxiety.
Yeah.
And then once you cortisol, so don't think that just the change, like you're just fine where you are and it's easy on your brain 100%, because yes, that's true in the whole moving around and whatever, changing your location possibly, but if you're really cluttered in a really cluttered space, that does take up brain capacity as well. And so you might think you're okay, but once you let, declutter the space, you'll actually be in a better place. And so you probably don't even notice how much that's bothering your brain. So UCLA had a study that found that clutter increases cortisol levels in women. I know we've talked about that before, but clutter actually increases our threat response to things. It feels like overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so just because change seems hard, not change can also be hard. So, you're just sitting in it in a familiar place, but you're sitting in
that
stress
of too much. Yeah. Okay, so the next part, your brain and your stuff and why objects feel like part of you. Our brains store memories through association. So that can be objects, that can be smells, that can be the spaces that we live in. Those are the retrieval cues for our brain to bring back a story or to bring back a moment. And, I was thinking about this, and I have a memory box of things all the way from high school or college or whatever, and I can remember stories around those things, but there's so many other stories that I don't have an object for.
Yeah.
So it's just those cues to bring up time in life, but balancing that with how much you have and which part of that is just the most memorable trigger that you want to keep versus everything.
Yeah, and if you need a trigger for something, if you have some large piece of furniture, let's say, that doesn't, fit in your new place or whatever, but it has memories around it, if you take a picture of it, you won't have that thing anymore, but you'll still have a cue, right?
Yeah.
So the picture can be the cue to remember it, even though you don't need the whole physical thing. And so they've done studies where there's big brain words, right? Your medial prefrontal cortex, which is the part that helps you process self. It lights up not only for you, but it also lights up for your stuff. So when you have memories about you, it will light up. But when you see your stuff, it will light up too. And so it can feel like letting go of your stuff is losing a little part of you, because that's how your brain is working around the stuff. But if you can find a way that you're keeping cues for things that are super important, and realize that things that aren't super important don't really make you light up at all, that's how you can help sort your things out and have less of them.
Yeah, the objects can be a shortcut to the memory, but they're not the memory itself. So
Right.
You're just choosing those key items. Back to that word we've used plenty of times. You're curating just that path back to those memories without taking the bulk that is negatively affecting you with the stress hormones and the clutter and
Right.
the overwhelm.
Right. And so you have to find a way that it doesn't feel like you're losing part of your identity around it. So either that's writing down the story around something, so that, because the story we say over and over is the most important part, right? Or having the cue to figure out how to remember that. And then in all of this, there is also that endowment effect that we've talked about before, which is once we own something, then we feel like it's more important to us. And they have done studies around that too. So once it's yours, your brain boosts its importance, and that's simply because you own it. It could be a roll of toilet paper. It could be something that is absolutely not, important at all. But because it's yours, then your brain thinks it is, tells you it is more important, and it's called the endowment effect. And I know we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, we talked about that study with the coffee mugs, where two groups of people, one group was given a coffee mug, 5 minutes ago, here's a new coffee mug, it's yours now. And the other group was given $20. And then they were told, asked each group, the ones who had the mug, how much would you sell this mug for? And the group that had the cash, how much would you buy that mug? How much of your new $20 would you spend on that? And the people who owned the mug for 5 minutes,
right,
their price in their mind to give it up was double what the people with the cash. And it's so interesting because they just suddenly had that, well, it's mine, I don't want to give it up.
It must have value because it's mine.
Yes.
And it didn't even have a story behind it.
No.
Other than it was handed to me 5 minutes ago. That was the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So your brain does some crazy things to make sure that you keep things that might be useful for you, to survive when you're a caveman. And we just have so much now, so much that we don't need all of those things, but our brain is still working that way around all the things.
Yeah, we've talked questions to ask before, and I think a question, would I buy this again, is a great question on some of those items that aren't super sentimental, but that you have that ownership feeling of, well, I have this.
Yeah.
And that's a good question to take you off that ledge of, well, if I wouldn't even buy it again, it's okay. Someone else could use it.
And I think this is part of when people talk about how they feel guilty about letting things go. It's part of this. Like they're feeling like it's theirs. And so, giving it away, makes them feel not great about it.
Yeah, I feel like it's that feeling of I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like I feel like I know inside I probably didn't need this when I bought it. And now I feel even more guilty if I don't find the perfect spot where someone needs it or whatever, and just need to move past those decisions and just try not to make them in the future.
Right. But it's already been made. And so that's the other thing. The money's been spent. It's already been made. Yeah. So, keeping it and then having stress around that is a cost that's not worth it because you've already made that decision.
It's not serving you, and it's not serving someone who could use the stuff if you moved it on.
For sure. Right around the corner from endowment effect is loss aversion. Yeah. So, it feels like you're losing more than you actually are. And there was a behavioral scientist, Daniel Kahneman, who said that humans experience loss twice as intensely as gains. So when you buy something, you feel happy, but when you let it go, you feel twice as sad as you did when as the amount of happy you felt from buying it.
Yeah.
Or twice as much loss. And so that's why things come into our house, and never go out of our house, because we enjoy that feeling of getting something new, and
we want to avoid that that feeling of letting it go, because it's not equally ranked.
Right.
Yeah.
So even if the object has low actual value, the emotional value makes the brain resist it, and the emotional value can be financial, it can be that endowment effect, it can be all of those things, but you're feeling it twice as much as you were feeling getting the object. So interesting.
Yeah. And in downsizing, the cost of letting something go can often feel greater than the benefit of what you feel like you're going to gain. You haven't realized those gains yet, and you're experiencing all the feelings of letting go, and that's a hard place to just keep powering forward through. Yeah.
So the insula is the part of the brain that's linked to pain, and it activates during loss. So you are literally feeling discomfort or pain around it. And so your brain is constantly doing like risk calculations. Yeah. And so if you pick something up and then you're like, oh, I don't know, like whatever, and then you put it down and then you pick it up again, that's your brain doing risk calculations about, is that pain that I'm going to feel of loss, worth it? And do I need to keep it? And all of that. Like, your brain is an incredible place.
Well, and I love how much our brains want to protect us.
Right.
And do all of that. And sometimes we just need to fight a little bit through that overprotection.
Right, because your brain thinks everything's dangerous because it wants to keep you alive.
Yeah.
Honestly. These are not life and death situations or decisions, but our brain isn't processing like that. It's just processing like, you have this and you should not let it go because
the neurons are bouncing around, indistinguishable between the real danger and the small perceived danger, honestly.
For sure.
Yeah, you're just overloading them in these big processes sometimes. Okay, so the next thing we'll talk about is memory, nostalgia, and the sentimental brain. So this, we have dopamine that hits us It's that warm feeling from many
Mood
different
boosting.
things, mood boosting, and making us feel that little surge of happiness when various things happen. And anytime we're visiting something nostalgic to us, those happy memories and those reminders, we get those little dopamine hits. And so that makes it especially challenging to go through boxes of things and memory and sentimental items. You may be looking at things in a box that you haven't seen in 10, 20, 30 years, so you weren't really feeling emotional about it.
Right.
And then you pull it out, and that boost of nostalgia that you get when you're holding that item gives you that dopamine hit, and it's like a false attachment because you enjoyed that momentary dopamine and you want to feel that more. So you think, oh, I love this, I want it. And it's easy to forget the time it was in storage, in an attic, in a basement.
Hadn't seen
where
it, didn't miss it.
Yeah, and so that's something to push through as well.
That's another one of those like memory cues. Like if you had something else that would cue that memory, then you don't need to keep that thing, even if it's a picture of the thing. So nostalgia is good for you. It's emotionally healthy, and keeping every object that makes you nostalgic is not sustainable, right? So, so somehow you have to find the balance between those things. And I think that's where you kind of come in, where that whole legacy thing comes in. It's like which memories are super, super important to keep and which memories are not. And my daughter was laughing at me when I was, going through some things and telling her stories and then letting them go. And it was like, as I'm telling the story, it didn't seem that important to me. Like I knew the story of it, but that wasn't that important of a story. So once I've said it, I can let it go. And that's an interesting, I didn't expect that to happen that way.
Yeah, it reminds me of, we were teaching a class recently on downsizing your photos and going in depth on that. And we were talking about starting at the beginning of what's the purpose of how you will best enjoy them as the end result, not just reducing them. But I feel like that plays into this, that you want that constant dopamine or good feeling about the nostalgia. So how can you curate the items into something that can be displayed and managed and in your life, whether that's a photo frame or, one teacup and saucer from a vast collection that reminds you of the other, so that you are getting that surrounding of all of those memories, but in a way that you can still manage your house, and it's a great, space to live in, and you're not overwhelming yourself or paying for storage that you don't need, and burying yourself, and then not getting the nostalgia either because you can't enjoy it. Because
you have so much anxiety of all the stuff that's around,
Yeah.
or it's packed away somewhere where you can't see it, or Exactly. So
narrowing that down.
Just nostalgia is a gift, but we have to figure out, what your brain just isn't very good at deciding which thing is more important than other things. And so you have to do some work on that. So while you're doing that work, decision fatigue, that your brain is a real thing. It's a real thing. And an average move requires between 2,000 and 5,000 micro decisions, and sometimes more if you've been in a house for a really long time. You're making decisions on so many things, and your brain just every decision, actually what happens in your body, every decision drains glucose and oxygen from your prefrontal cortex, which is your brain is working hard, burning calories, which is why when you've sat and done something like that, you feel like, I just sat all day. Like, what's the problem? And your brain is actually burning calories trying to make the decisions. And so when it's depleted, then your amygdala gets louder, and that's the part that makes you feel overwhelmed. And it's like once you kind of deplete your 50 decisions is kind of the number. Once you kind of deplete those, then accuracy and patience significantly decline.
Yeah.
And so if you're in a place, that's why we say like 15 minutes a day, just get in a habit and just kind of do that. But if you're in a place where you really have to do a lot in a short amount of time, I think sometimes if you can batch things together so that they're all, one decision instead of a decision on every single thing. Or if there's certain things that are really things that you need to go through and you need to move now, I would take them and go through them later. And I'm talking probably about like pictures or letters or things that are, hard to go through and will take a lot of time and will take a lot of that energy of decision making.
Yeah, at the very least, if you are on a time crunch and can't listen to that decision fatigue as well because you just need to get done, at least structure in some breaks, go for a walk, refresh your brain a little bit, just clear your head so that you can get back into making those decisions out of the proper mindset and not just out of exhaustion and frustration.
Yeah. So in downsizing, when you're asked, asking yourself, should I keep this like hundreds of times? Your brain is like, whew, you're making me tired. Like you're exhausting me with this. And so what usually happens is the answer is yes if you don't know, because no is a harder decision. Remember, because it's twice as hard to say no, meaning let it go, than yes to keep it. And so if your brain's tired, then your brain's just going to be like, yep, just keep it all. I can't deal with this. Like,
yeah, it's going to search to protect you.
Yep.
And, we've talked about that. You're feeling overwhelmed. Your brain is going to do whatever it can to get you back to that regulated, calmer position. So in that moment, yes, keep it is the easier answer to get you back to those good energy feelings. But in the long run, it leaves you with the clutter that brings you the stress and the cortisol. So it's really, just a process. And we understand why everyone feels that it's overwhelming.
Well, and when you create new habits, your brain grows new pathways. Yeah. And so it's not that you can't get out of it, and it will feel a little painful because you're doing things that are hard. But when you're doing things that are hard, your brain is growing new pathways for that. And so if you get past that, I call it the breaking waves, right? Like you're in, and they just keep hitting you and hitting you and hitting you. But if you keep being consistent and get past that and get into those smooth waters that you can kind of drift over those, not quite waves yet, then that, if creating a habit of cleaning out every 15 minutes every day will be that. You're just drifting over those waves and you're kind of doing it and it's fine. But in the beginning, it's going to feel hard.
Yeah, it's those daily habits for going through things and the daily habits for just kind of resetting so that it doesn't build back up again in your space. Right.
And that will be a pathway. The 15-minute declutter will be a pathway for you, so your counter won't ever look again like it's full of mail and all that stuff. And actually what will happen is that'll irritate you as if it starts to pile up, and you'll need to get rid of it instead of right now, if that's what your counter looks like, you're used to it and it's causing you mental stress, but you are just used to it, so you put up with it. Later, those pathways won't let you put up with it. It'll be like, ugh, I can't, this has to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So another thing that we can face through this process is the identity shift that we don't like to think about, but our physical space can represent so many of our roles: parent, host, the fixer, the caretaker, the collector, the entertainer, all of those things that our house defines us as. And so we're again protecting ourselves, going through this process. If you're making a move, it can trigger the same reorganization as other milestones: when you retire, when your kids graduate, when you have your first child, when you get married. All of those milestones are identity shift time periods. But this one for downsizing is so anchored to a space you may have been in for a long time that it feels much more difficult to make that shift. And so going back to what we've talked about so much, defining that next chapter first is so important, because that gives your brain an identity to anchor to.
The new place. Right.
The new, what you want your days to look like, what social calendar you envision at the new place, what hobbies, all of that. Once you've thought about that before you get started, then all through the process, your brain can start anchoring to that and helping you with the decisions versus hanging tight to the only safe place it knows, because fear of the unknown is the problem.
And if you haven't done that dreaming, you can't visualize it because you don't know, right? And so again, information is the king of helping with that. But if you've gone out and said, okay, this is the community I want to live in, or this is I can see myself in a ranch house, like whatever, you can start visualizing all of that, and your body or your brain can say, make place-based memories, not quite memories yet, but anchor yourself, like you said, to those visualizations that will become your new place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this can go in initial phases too, when you're thinking about if you were the host for all the holidays, and instead of just focusing on losing that space or doing that, anchor to what the next holiday looks like, even if it's different. Like, I can't wait to go travel to, my daughter's house and help her host in their beautiful home, or I can't wait, till we have it in the dining room at my new community. And you're just kind of anchoring on that next vision instead of focusing on the loss.
Yep. Yeah, because downside, it's not losing your identity; it's creating, a new one or updating it. You're still going to be you, but there's, there'll be a fresher new look on it, I guess, right? So
yeah, we've talked about that in other episodes, where those character traits that led you to those identities, those don't ever leave you. So it's just looking on how do you incorporate those into some change in that role. But you are you, and
right.
That's wonderful, and that will all carry on in a different way.
Right. So why do couples feel this differently?
Yes. We just did a few episodes on this, but one of our recent episodes was on this disagreement or this complexity of two different personalities working through this, and
opposites attract.
Yep. And the science of that is, that each person's brain has different sentimental activation points. And so, sometimes studies show more predominantly that men attach meaning to functional items, maybe tools, lawn care, those type of things. And women tend to attach meaning to more relationship-linked items. So those are more the memory items, the decor, the photos, things like that.
Gifts they were given.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But even if it doesn't quite follow those gender lines in your relationship, it's very likely that it's different one way or another.
Well, and because of that, we've seen this so many times, they'll be like, well, we can't move, because he has junk.
Yes.
And then he'll go, well, she has junk too, but her junk are her treasures, and his junk is his treasures. Yeah, but to her, his junk is her, is junk. And so, but that's because their brain is connecting to different things to, have attached their meaning to, right?
Yeah.
And so they can't see, why would you need all of that as tools, or why would you need, all those pictures or letters or, whatever it is. And so everybody's brain, has different activation points, whether, it's gender-based or not. But, and so, we have a mismatched emotional responses, and that they feel like conflict, right? Because they feel like they don't understand why.
Well, and
somebody likes something and somebody likes something else.
Yeah, and that's why I love episodes like this, when we're really getting down to science. It can help you understand where your partner may be coming from, or some of the things happening does that mean the two of you need to dream a little bit more together and remove some of that fear? Or, do you need to talk more about what are those shortcuts or triggers to bring some of that nostalgia with you without all of it?
Or tell your stories around the things about like why that's important to you and what story it brings out or what cue it brings for you. And then also our neurons mirror of other people's emotions, right? And so during a conflict, so if one person's having anxiety over it, then the other person will mirror the anxiety, which in any conflict, whether it's over downsizing stuff or not, is what escalates arguments, is that mirroring. Somebody gets emotional, and then the other person gets emotional back. That anxiety is mirrored. So try not to do that. Try to understand, from a place of curiosity. And if what they are trying to save seems like junk to you, maybe just ask some curiosity questions about what it is that, that's resonating. Why is that resonating with them?
Yeah, and some solution-based curiosity of how can you, if staying where you are, it doesn't make the most sense, how can you get past both the not wanting to get rid of something and also the need to move forward?
Well, and the number of those things, right? If it's 100 teacups, like, do you need that many? Or, whatever, or tools or whatever. So,
yeah. Okay, so we've had lots of science we've talked about so far confirming that downsizing is hard or change is hard. Let's talk a little bit through some science that shows the benefits.
That it's worth it.
Yeah, because it definitely is.
It definitely is.
We meet so many people and help so many people through this process, and as hard as it is in the moment or feels before you've gotten started, every single one of them says they wish they'd done it sooner.
For sure.
So,
and I think that going through the things that your brain is doing to tell you it's hard, maybe can help you realize it's not. It's just your brain kind of reacting that way.
Yeah.
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 Once you know what it's doing, then you can kind of be like, okay,
I can
that's just because I own it, but I don't actually need it. And, whatever. So tell yourself those things. But anyway, okay. So decluttering and simplifying increase dopamine and serotonin due to more predictability and reduced sensory load. So meaning we're oversensitized, like when we have too many things around us, right? And clutter feels like chaos. And so then it's not as predictable. So when you have less things, then there's less sensory response to the things that you have, right? And it's all more predictable. And when you don't lose things as easily because there's not so many things to search around and all of that. So, so you get increased dopamine and serotonin by having it be clean. And I think, anybody who's had a really messy space and then cleaned it up, everybody I think feels like, oh, that feels so much better.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what you're going for in the end. No matter how hard it is to do it, in the end, that's how you're going to feel. You're going to feel like, oh, that feels so much better. And it's true because your brain is actually responding to the clutter in a negative way and to the peacefulness in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that studies show, people in a decluttered environment can complete tasks 20% faster and with fewer mistakes. So even just having that calm, emptier space, you can function better on all the other things you do in your daily life.
Yeah. There's a part of your brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, and what it does, it's like a bridge between your thinking brain and your emotional brain. And in MRI studies, it showed that it becomes less activated after you let go of excess, meaning that you have lower stress and more mental clarity. And you can literally see that on an MRI, which is super interesting. So your brain really is agitated and then calming when you let go of things and have a cleaner space.
Yeah, absolutely. Your brain performs better with less, and letting go is good medicine. As we were looking into some notes for this episode, I want to dig deeper. I mean, as we get older, our brains have, different levels of problems with dementia or Alzheimer's and things. And it would be so curious to see. I'm sure there's a connection where it just helps our overall brain health, which we need as we get older, and it's just declining naturally anyway. So if you can set yourself up for that longer health and brain health, I say go for it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so some practical brain-friendly ways that letting go can make that easier. So limit sorting sessions to 60 or 90 minutes. We're saying 15 minutes a day, but if you're actually like going to dig in and, do a big project, 60 or 90 minutes, and then go take a break, get some lunch, do something different. We talked a little bit about that, but give yourself, because that aligns with your natural cognitive stamina cycles. Like it allows you to make those, number of decisions that you can make, and then decision fatigue will set in and you need to just walk away from it and, stop for a little while, get yourself some food, maybe, get yourself some more energy while your brain is burning all those calories.
Yeah.
You can use category sorting. Like all the linens or all of the serving bowls or all of the, whatever, pick a topic, but you can put them all together. And I was talking about this a little bit earlier, kind of categorize things in a group so that you can make one decision about it instead of lots of decisions about them.
Yeah, once it's all piled together, you can say, okay, I need 3 sets of sheets.
What are my favorites?
What are my favorites? And you don't have to touch everyone individually and make an individual decision. So, the percentage of decisions you're just cutting out is a lot. So it leaves room to get through more faster.
Yeah. So the way that you would do that, and we talk about this often too, is like go through your house and get everything of that category all together in one place so that So because if you're like, oh, I need 3, and then you've done that from the linen closet, but then you had sheets in a bedroom closet somewhere, whatever. Now you've messed up your 3. Like now you.
Well, then you just forget about that whole process, and you're just like, oh, I like these. These are pretty.
Yeah.
And they get added to the pile, and you find another one. Oh, yeah, I remember when I bought these. Oh, yeah, these work great on that bed, and suddenly then you have 6 instead of 3.
Exactly. And you'll be surprised at how many of everything you have when you put it like that. You're like, oh, gosh, this is more than I need, right? So. Yeah.
We discovered that with like pool towels when we moved. We don't have a pool at our house and we don't have little kids that go, to the pool daily. And just because of different places where they'd been put, because we didn't use them that often, I think we ended up, I don't know, probably 20 pool towels. And we had cut them down to the ones we were keeping. And then we were finishing going through stuff at the storage. And I found a bag with, like 8 more. And I'm like, somebody can use these. And we do not need 28 pool towels.
Right. Okay. So another option is use physical distance, right? This is the maybe box. We talk about the maybe box all the time, right? And so you can... this is getting around that loss response. So if you put it in the box, you feel the loss response, you close up that box, you put a date on it, 6 months from now, you can only open that box if you know exactly what's in there and you really feel like you need it in those 6 months. And if you haven't opened that box in 6 months, you do not open the box. You've already gone through the things. You've already let them go. Opening it again and starting over is just, again, you'll have that same loss response again. So all you're doing here is you're thinking, I don't think I need this, but in case I do, then I'll give myself a little time. And if I have to pull it out, I'll go get it.
Yeah.
This can't be with everything. This can just, you don't want 1,000 maybe boxes, in your garage. But if you're really, really struggling with a decision, that can help you feel that loss and then get past it and not remember you probably won't even remember what's in the box, honestly.
Yeah, and that's the key, is not opening it back up and getting that dopamine hit of nostalgia.
Yeah, and not writing on the outside every single thing that's in the box so that you remember what's in there. Like
tape it shut with a date on it and know that you've already gone through. It doesn't have, gift cards or checks or money. You know that it's okay to go as long as there was nothing you needed to go seek out from it.
Yeah. So an idea to, you can take pictures of the house before you actually start sorting things. And so that will give you that touch point of lots of things, so that you can recall those and, feel that emotional, nostalgia about it. Before you sort a bunch of stuff, take some pictures of it, and then that keeps you in that recall mode, and you don't have to keep it all because you can look at the picture.
Yeah. So name the story of the item out loud. I mean, you can tell us again how you did that with your Christmas ornaments, but saying that story out loud causes your brain to have to define that story, and you're kind of internally ranking like, that's not as important as I thought.
Right.
This is easier to let go, or you're deciding this is something so important to me. These are one of the things to keep.
Yeah, because everything probably does have a story, but the story may or may not be important.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's what I found was a lot of times the story wasn't important. Like I got this Christmas ornament on a present, and it was free from Nordstrom's. And it was just so it doesn't have any. The present itself, it was just tied to it or something.
Yeah, it's that same theory of when you say to not just flip through your closet and look for things to give away, but take everything out and look at each one. It's that same exercise. You're taking each one. Can I tell the story about this? How does that story sound out loud to myself? Is it important? Is it not important?
Right.
It's a great way to help make that decision.
Yeah. And then decide the purpose of your next chapter first. We've talked about this 1,000 times, but it's the dream it phase. So your neuropsychology study in 2022 found out that a defined future self increases following through on hard decisions by 48%, right? Because you can visualize what's happening next, and it reduces the fear.
Yeah. The science behind our steps.
Yep.
There really
I love
is.
it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're not being ridiculous and emotional and all of those things. This is how your brain is working.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of have to work with it.
Yeah, with understanding comes the power to get through it and to realize what's happening and to know it will be okay on the other side.
Yeah, and to realize your brain's just trying to protect you, but also you're going to feel fantastic when you've let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. If we can help you with any of these steps or talk further about how to help you get through them, please visit our website, downsizingroadmap.com. And if you're ready to dip your toe into getting started, go and ask for our free downsizing guide. That's at downsizingroadmap.com/guide. And if you're ready to connect with us or one of our trusted partners in your area, that is downsizingroadmap.com/help.
Yep. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.